Well, recording just started because this session have started, and we have only one participant now. Hello, Diana. Are you here? Can you hear us? Well, I'm not sure whether everything is okay technically or not. Oh, we have one more participant. Then we can test whether we can hear each other or not. And I hope that other participants will join in. Nadia, hello, good afternoon. Okay, I see that now you're connected to audio. So again, hello, Nadia. I'm happy that you're here too. And we were just about to start today's session. Oh, hello. Good to see you again. So we're just about to start. And today's topic is going to be presentation techniques. I mean, in general, because tomorrow we will have another lesson with the topic of presentation techniques, and that's going to be more focused on business communication. And we will talk about the related topics. And so I will bring all the extras in. And today we're going to start with, the general ideas. Because I think it's important for all of us to hello everyone for the newcomers. So I think it's important for all of us to know how to present in a successful way, in a way that is persuasive enough. Because you have your own businesses, or you will have your own businesses, and we talked about branding 2 days ago, and now we'll talk about presentation, because after we have the brand and we have an idea of who we are, what we're doing, what is the business that we're running, we have to sell this idea to the stakeholders, to people who would like to join in, or to our customers. So there are various situations when it's important and needed to communicate in a persuasive way. And generally, it is in the form of a presentation, but we will open the topic of presentation as broad as we can today and tomorrow. So I will bring in business communication, assertive communication, persuasion, negotiation, and all the other related topics a bit to our conversation, just to make sure that you will have a knowledge of each and every of these, because these are interrelated to each other. So it's good to have at least a full picture of how these go together, and what should we aware of when we are presenting, negotiating, or persuading people. So for those ones who I did not meet before, my name is Zita Komar. I'm from Hungary, here at Corvinus University. I'm working in Budapest, and we're going to talk about presentation topics. I will share my slides, and some of you, like Nadia and the others, know that I always want to have a chat with you, because I'm interested in your ideas and how you perceive things. What are your thoughts on the topics that I bring to the table? So I have prepared again the slides with parts that are centered around discussion or conversation. So we can share our thoughts, ideas, and I would be really, really happy if we can have a chat, a conversation here. So please don't worry, because you can use your voice, and you can make your voice heard, because I will open up topics for you. And I wanted to start with a little conversation, just like we did on Tuesday. So I shared the slide because I want to show you 3 quotes, 3 different approaches to presentation. And I'm interested, like, what do you think of these? Which one is your preference? Which one is your favorite? Or is there anything that you agree or disagree with within these? And I think it's going to be a good starting point for us. So in a minute, I just share the slideshow with you, and I hope you can see it. So I think it's working now. Please tell me if it's not. Like, take it as a yes. I hope it means that you can see the slide. I cannot move these. Sorry, in a minute, another technical problem occurred, but I will solve it in a minute. We'll solve it, and I will share the slides, I promise. I just have to reopen it to make sure that these will be compatible. What's happened? Okay, a little technical problem. I'm here. Now, I think it's okay. You can see the slides if I'm right. Yeah, thank you, Nadia. Okay, so I wanted to start with a conversation just to, warm up a bit and arrive to the topic with a little chat. Hope you will join in and we'll like it. So here are 3 different ideas and approaches to presentations. And I'm interested in what do you think of these? Do you have any ideas connected to these? The first one is from Steve Jobs, and we know him as a real good presenter. Many people likes the way he presents. It's some kind of an unorthodox approach that he has in presentation. So he's not doing the thing. He wasn't doing the things that others did. And one of his ideas was that people who know what they are talking about don't need PowerPoint or any other visual aid to support the idea, the material. And he had many presentations when he was simply just talking about something connected to Apple, of course. For example, the launch of a new mobile phone or something like that. So I think this quote reflects on the idea, which is a highly debated idea today, that whether we need visual aids when we are presenting, for example, PowerPoint slides or Prezi or anything else, or is it better if we just simply share the thought, share the idea, and connect naturally to the audience? So this is one thing I'm interested in what you think of. The second one is from Bruce Lee, which is funny because we do not consider him as a presenter. He was doing something completely different. But I have found a quote from him, and it reflects on the idea that great presenters are like water. And I was thinking of this little sentence, like, what does that mean? But what is the nature of water, and why is it a good idea to think of a presenter as of like we think of water? And I think of course, it's a metaphor, and I think it needs a unwrapping, let's say. It needs a bit more creativity to open up this idea. What might he been thinking of? And before I let you speak, I'll show you the last one, the last of the quotes. It's from Maya Angelou, and she said that I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but they will never forget how you made them feel. And this is a totally different approach again to presentation, which says that the emotional impact, the emotional part of persuasion is more important than the factual part, like what you say, or it's even more important than what you do. I think this is very contradictory because many people think that actions speak, and that's the most important thing, to do things. But she says that it's even more important how we do things, what kind of feeling do we leave in people, and how we make them feel. So these were the 3 ideas. The first one is that we need visuals or not, visual aids or not. The second one is like presenters are like water. And the last one is that the emotional impact is the most important. And I am open to your ideas, and I would like to give the word to you. Like, what do you think? Is there anything in any of these that caught your eye? Or do you would like to add some extra to these? Is there anything that you really strongly agree with? Or is there anything that you do not agree with at all? And you have a totally different idea on the topic? I would be happy if you would share it with us, with the group who are here today, like the 5 of us.
Okay, maybe I will start.
Oh, thank you, Nadia, for being the first one again. It's so comforting
Yeah,
that you're always here.
I think all these 3 points are very important. But first, of course, it's very important that the person who present to make this presentation, he is totally aware of what he is talking about. He is fully in this topic, and he can be very deeply, but when it's necessary and when it's not, just fluently saying this the most important things. But visual things, it's also very, very important when you show something which people don't know or don't understand. You must show something, some picture, some view. Without visual things, it's really hard to explain many topics.
Especially true for the newer generations, the millennials.
Yeah, yes, yeah. We need to see something and we need to hear the same thing. What is this about? And emotional, it's also good. I think it's really it's what people must to learn, how to make presentation, how to involve on also emotional part of your public, of your audience.
Mm-hmm. I do believe in what you're saying,
Mhm.
so I think we're on the same page. And what do you think? Can I ask? What do you think of the second one? This is, I
I
think,
don't
it's so
understand
mystical.
this.
Yeah, that's so
What that means,
mystical.
like water.
Yeah, what does
So
that mean? That
I
was my
don't know.
question to you. Like, how can we open up this sentence? What does that mean? Great presenters are like water.
I can't understand that. It's I don't like when people make these things like water, like air, or like something, because for me it's nothing.
It's too abstract.
Too abstract, yeah, really. But some people they really like this and they understand that. It depends on the how people see how they get the information. Some are more technical. For some of
Yes.
them, they need just facts. For some of them, they need more emotional things, and for some of them, they need like these abstract things, and they can operate with this easier. So it depends on the person.
Yeah, that's right. The problem is that how do we know who we are talking to when we start a presentation? For
We
example, a
don't
business
know.
presentation, or we talk to the customers, like how we know that which one of these they really need. And even
Yeah,
in
we
one
don't know.
audience, they can be different people. So I
Mhm.
think the thing with presentation technique is that this is the art of knowing how to speak to everyone, like how
Yeah,
to put together your thoughts in a way to give something, at least one thing, to everyone in the audience.
yeah.
I don't know if I will tell you what I think of this one. And it's not, of course, the Holy Grail, just my interpretation. Um, but I would be interested. Is there anyone here who would like to share an idea? Do you have some ideas? What could this mean? No problem if not. It was just a little game, to warm up at the beginning of today's session. I had this a quote from years now, and I have heard various solutions from my students to the same thing, because I generally bring this idea into the class and I ask them, what do they think of that? And many of them like this. And I think it's a generational difference, that how we perceive the messages. And they have, I think, two interesting solutions. The first one is what they generally say, that the water is essential for living. So we cannot live without water. And maybe the quote, according to their idea, reflects on the idea that the great presenters are really needed. It is essential to present successfully, to present in a persuasive way, to be a good presenter. It is essential as water is vital and essential for the human. So this is one of their solution. And the second one of my student solution is that the water can adapt to everything, because, it can harden and it becomes ice. Or also it can get really hot, It is fluid, so it can, have the shape, the form of everything. So it's adaptable, really, really flexible, yet, let's say. And they said that maybe the quote refers to this idea that great presenters should be flexible. They should adapt to each and every circumstance that's happening before, during, and after a presentation. So I really like both of these solutions, which my students gave to this idea. And I think it's worth to think of that really it is a subject of flexibility or not, to present a persuasive way, or simply to present. So I hope you enjoyed this, little game of chasing the thoughts and the ideas. And now I would like to jump in to today's course material and give you some ideas and hints on the generals and the basics of presentation techniques. And tomorrow, on Friday, we will move on with this topic, and we will add extras to the topic. I don't know how many presentations the participants who are here today did before. I don't know. Maybe there are people here today who have made many, many great presentations, but maybe some people here who have never done a presentation before. So I don't know what kind of background do you have. So I prepared the slides according to the thought, give new things or new ideas to everyone. For those ones who are advanced in this thing, and for those ones who are beginners with presentation techniques as well. So I will pay attention. I will have some questions in the middle while we talk about these topics. I invite you for a chat, for a discussion always. And please do share your thoughts. And we'll go through on the topics like way that we will give basic ideas for the beginners and advanced or pro tips for the ones who are on an advanced level of presentation. And I will start with the idea that when we think of presentation, we generally think of the verbal actions, like what we say, and as Nadia said, the visuals, what's in the background, for example, on the PPT slide. And generally, we forgot that there is the nonverbal part, which is, the vocals, like how my voice sounds when I'm presenting, for example, or the mimics, so how my face moves when I'm presenting, the gestures, how I'm using the hands. I think those ones who have joined in on Tuesday and today as well will have a clear picture that I'm using my hands very frequently when I present. But there are people who do not need gestures at all, because they have a very firm and calm stance when they're presenting. So it's different. But the nonverbals are very important. No matter how you use it, these deliver 2/3 of the information. And I don't know if you've been using, for example, Zoom or any other online device during the COVID to work or to keep contact with your families, or during the crisis right now. And I think those who have been using Teams or have been using online communication, let's say not just Teams or Zoom, I think they got used to the feeling that it is really different to present online than to present offline, like in a real life situation. And the difference is, and why is it different? The difference is that we cannot see the nonverbals, or we see a very, very tiny part of the nonverbals. And it's different because we got used to see the nonverbals and to perceive information through the nonverbals. But it's really hard to see only a screen with a very limited part of the body, just this part of the body, not the whole body, and the very limited nonverbal communication. And that is why people generally think that they don't like online meetings, or they do not understand communication the way they did before, because in online communication we lose nonverbals, or we lose the major part of the nonverbals, which is really, really essential to communication. So when we're presenting, I would advise you to to do it offline in a real life setting. Even if you have the chance to do it online, I would say to choose to do it in a real life situation. Of course, if you have no other chance, you can do it online, but it will never be the same, of course, as doing it offline. So the nonverbals are important. This is the third category on the slide. And the fourth one is listening. And this is something that everybody forgets and nobody pays attention to. And when I ask people that, what do you think? Why is it important to talk about listening skills when we talk about presentations or presentation skills? Because we generally think that presenting is talking, constantly talking. It is a verbal action. And now we know it's not just verbal, it's a non-verbal action. Also, we need thinking, of course, and we need the listening skills because those are the good presenters who are also good listeners. So when you listen to a presentation, you will reveal your character, the way you behave. When I go into the classroom, I will see from the very first moment who are the students, who are those students who are interested, because they will have eye contact. They will sit in the first row or in the position that I can see them. They will smile, give me a smile when I start. They will, put down everything and focus on the topic. And also they will listen to what I say and they have questions. They digest the information. And so on. And this is true for everybody. It's not just true for students, it's true for each and every person in the world. So the way we listen, the way we play our roles as part of the audience will have an impact on the way we present, because these are connected, interrelated to each other. So if we would like to become great presenters, first of all, zero step is to become good listeners when we're listening to somebody else who is presenting, for example. And I think it's a thought worth to keep and to bear in your mind later on, that how you listen. Are you a good listener? Do you have active listening skills? Or can you develop your active listening skills if you would like to develop it? These are really, really important questions. And one more thought, this slide, that it is important today. Because in this world that we live in this 21st century, really fast-paced world, full with information and things like that, attention is something that is really, really missing. And what everybody needs is time and attention, not really money, not really more job to do, not really more things to have. But we are really thriving for that we really want to have from each and every other person in the world is their attention. And we can be so happy when somebody pays attention to us. And this is the key to sales as well. And now we arrive to business. So I was talking about philosophical topics, you might think, but it's not just philosophy, it is business. So people who can pay attention to the customer or to the stakeholder or to the person you're trying to sell your idea to will be the winners in this game, because everybody loves when there's somebody who pays attention to his needs, to his thoughts, to his ideas, and so on. So a good presenter is a good listener. This is the first thing I wanted to add. Even for those who are advanced in presentation techniques, I think this can be a new thought or an important thought to keep in mind. Generally, we think that a presentation is some kind of a situation when we stand out, share our thoughts, tell people what to do, and we have a step-by-step routine that we go through when presenting. But in some cases, this isn't the case, because it can happen that you have an informal type of a meeting with a customer or with a stakeholder or with a partner. Let's say it's better to say partner. So it's not really in a formal situation. You cannot present, for example, a PPT. You just simply persuade by word. Or it can happen that it is a more formal situation. It can happen you present to a bunch of people because, for example, you enter an event, a conference, some kind of a networking event when you can, when you have like 5 to 10 minutes to share your thoughts with a bigger audience. That is another type of presentation. It can happen that you record a presentation like what we do right now, that you are presenting and people will check it later. That's totally different than real life, real time presentations. And there are some other various forms. It is different, like whether you present to an audience who is familiar with the topic or people who have no idea of the topic. It makes a difference whether you present to people in their working hours or in their leisure time. It is different how you present to them. For example, you use a scientific academic language, or you use a business language, or you use a friendly informal language. That's another difference. And there are many other characteristics of presentations I will show you a few minutes later that you need to keep in mind when you're presenting, because you will tailor your presentation to the given circumstances. For example, just to make it practical, when I was preparing for this presentation or workshop for you, I have checked all the materials I have, all the books I have on the topic, all the, for example, literature I have read, the examples, the case studies, and so on. And I was selecting those that I thought could be interesting for women entrepreneurs who have businesses or who are about to start a business. And this way, I have a totally different presentation than I show to my students on classes, because that's a different audience. I show them different slides in a different way. And if I talk about presentation techniques, for example, on a conference, I will do a third type of presentation, because then I will talk to experts who already know how to make presentations. So I give them different ideas. And also, if I do trainings, for example, for business people at companies, I will do again a very different presentation, because they need other type of info than the other groups. So we always tailor, we always suit our presentation to the audience. So the thing is that it's not enough to have one presentation about your business, because that's not going to work with each and every audience in each and every occasion. But you need to always, edit the content and think of the style and the way you're presenting based on the needs and the characteristics of your audience. So that is why presentations can be really, really different. What do you really need to pay attention to? There are 6 factors of a presentation, and you can check these later. I will upload the slides. I just want to show you what are these factors. The first one is the context, like when and where we're talking, not just to who, because audience is here in another bracket, but when and where we're presenting, whether you're familiar, for example, with the place or not, you're doing it online or offline, and so on. The presenter is you, of course, so you need to know this is something that can be important, that is important for those ones who are advanced, who are on an advanced level in presentation techniques, to know what kind of presenter you are. You need to have a strong self-reflection to understand what are your strengths and what are your weaknesses when you're presenting. Am I a fast speaker or a low-paced speaker? Am I somebody who really likes to create rapport with the audience, or I like to be alone and I would like to have questions later? Am I a presenter who feels free to move around, or am I the one who sticks to one place? Am I a presenter who's really good in persuasion because I like to talk, I know how to persuade? Or I'm a newcomer in the world of presentation and I really have no idea how to do it? And such other thoughts. So you need to know what kind of presenter you are, what are your strengths and weaknesses. Also, the audience, I was talking about a lot, how to think of how to suit your presentation to the audience. Also, there is the message, of course, topic we're talking about, your business, for example. You need to pay attention to the reactions of the audience as well. I would say if you're a beginner presenter, that might be hard, because you're focusing on the topic, you're focusing on yourself, like how you're behaving, and you have no more energy to pay attention and to react to the reactions of the audience. If you're a skilled presenter, a master presenter, it's easier to pay attention to the reaction. Example, practical example. If you're doing a business presentation, for example, partners or stakeholders, it is essential to check their faces and their behavior, because it will give you signs whether they are interested in your business or they got bored already and they do not want to buy in your business, or they are interested. They do not know what you're doing, but they want to have more info, and so on. So this is why checking the reactions is important, because then you will know which way to go on with your presentation, what to talk about, what not to talk about. And this is something that you can prepare for, of course, by having extra slides, for example, extra ideas, but this will only turn out in that specific situation. When you're there and when you're presenting, you will know how they react. But before that, you can even guess. And the method, like how you deliver your presentation, for example, you can see whether it's a video conference or not, are important, and also the impediments, other factors that have an influence on your presentation. For example, the technical parts, like whether you know how to use the technical things or not. I'm not really good with the technical parts, so I always prepare. And these are the factors I would say that you should make a checklist of before each and every presentation. And now we arrive to the chat, because I have talked a lot now, and I have said everything with the basics of presentation. And now we dive deep into the topic of presentation. And my first question to you is I have two questions. I hope you will have different ideas on that. Is that, what do you think, if we can select when to present during the day, which would be the best part of the day to present, and how long should we talk to the audience, whether our customers or partners? So these are the two questions I would like to pop up for you to start to go deep into the details of presentation. When to present, when is it best to present? What do you think? And how long can a talk, a presentation be? We're just guessing. There are no good or bad answers. I'm just simply interested whether you have experiences with this.
We already had some lectures on this topic, and I remember there was written that the presentation should be not more than 15 minutes, not
15.
something like, yeah, it's maximum, but there were some short presentations for 3 minutes or 1 minute even, that lift presentation or yeah, but usually the attention of people in not last more than 15 minutes. After that, they starting to get bored. So it's better to make it shorter as possible, to give only the most important information. And those who will be interesting, they could all the time contact you with or ask additional questions or send request for some additional information by email or any other types. So I think the more shorter, that's the best.
Mm-hmm.
And
what do you do if you have 1 hour? You're invited to a partner who wants to put money into your business, and they invite you to do a presentation, and they say it's going to be between 2 and 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So you have 60 minutes. What do you do in that case? How would you use that time?
I don't know. To make some lunch together with partners, to make it more informal. I think if we have 1 hour, it's better to make the presentation during lunchtime to make it informal.
Oh, you can, if you don't need the like visual aids, the PPT, then you can make it during the lunchtime. But if you need the PPTs, you cannot do it during the lunchtime.
Yeah, that's true.
You need to have a meeting room or a Zoom appointment. But yeah, it can happen that you have a 1 hour Zoom appointment, for example, because they are, they want to see the detailed info of your business before putting money into the business. So I think it's an interesting question, like what to do if we have like 45 minutes or 50 minutes or 60 minutes, I would say we can put an emphasis on the introduction. So like having a chit chat, a small talk at the beginning, discussing things. And if you feel that, okay, they're tired of that, you have to jump into the thing, then of course you can start with the presentation. And I would say that, yeah, it can be 15 or 20 minutes long. And then you can say, do you have questions? And then we can start, you can start a professional discussion on the topic, and that's worthy of doing. And what do you think of, Nadia, when to do the presentations? Like during the day?
I think it's better during the day, but not in the evening.
Why not in the evening?
Because in the evening, people already thinking about how to go after to personal things, not about the work.
Yeah, I have to get the children from kindergarten.
Yeah. Many other plans, they're already waiting for the free time. So
Yes.
evening, it's not the best time for a presentation.
You're right. But when is the best time?
Morning, afternoon, not early morning, not late afternoon. Yeah,
That's true.
any.
That's true. In the morning between 9, 10, 11 o'clock. After 11 o'clock, it's not that easy because people get hungry and they start to think of that. What's on the menu today in the cafeteria? I want to get there in time, not to miss the spaghetti bolognese or something like that. They can think of, and then they are not paying attention to the presentation. And it's really, really not good to do the presentation after lunch. Because they're digesting, people are not there. Yeah, I would say you're right. If we can choose, let's opt for a meeting with the partner, with the stakeholder, with the customer during the morning between 9, 11 lunchtime, and then around 2, 3, maximum 4 o'clock in the afternoon, but I wouldn't say that. So this is what we do here today, like starting at 5:30. That's a horror because we're tired, we're after work, it's in our free time, and so on. So if I could choose when to do these presentations, I would say let's do it in the morning. But of course, if people are working, we cannot do it in the morning, so we have to adapt to these circumstances. So it means that we need to be very, very careful when to present, because it will determine the attention of the audience. What else we need to keep in mind? For example, when I said to suit or to tailor your presentation to the audience, I have meant that before presenting, let's ask, like, how many of the invited people will be there. Will we be talking to 1 or 2 people, or to 15 people, or to 100 people on an event? Prospect customers, for example. That's not the same. So we need to know the size of the group, the age range. That's totally important to know that how old they are. The majority, of course, not everybody's age. We need to know about the age range of the majority of the audience. Their gender, it can be important, whether we're talking to male or female leaders, for example. If the leaders make decisions whether to make the buy-in in our business, it can be important whether they are female or male leaders. It can be important how captive they are. I've told you, if it's in their working hours or in their leisure time when they're listening to the presentation, and such other things. So the advice here is to make sure that you have most possible information that you can have before the presentation, because this way you can prepare. And the length of talk, 2 things are essential here, and this is the golden rule. So this is something that you cannot violate when presenting. And the 2 things go hand in hand regarding time. The first one is that never to be late. So you can never start a presentation late, because people will feel that you're not really there, you're not really interested, you think you can play with their time, and so on. So it will have many negative consequences. in people, and also beware of overrunning. So be there on time or a bit before, and finish when it's time, or even a bit before. People are really happy if you talk a bit less than the dedicated time. So for example, if they tell you you have 20 minutes for the presentation, if you talk for 18 minutes, they will be really, really happy. And it's not logical. They only have like 2 minutes extra. That's 2 minutes, that's nothing, we think. But in this case, psychologically, people feel that they got a gift. They got 2 extra minutes that they can use, and they feel that, oh my God, that's so good. So I would say that yes, be on time, or if you can, talk a bit less, like 10% less than the dedicated time, and the audience will feel more comfortable and they will like it, because it's like a gift, really. How to organize the presentation material. That's another important thing, because generally we just put the ideas into the presentation and do not pay attention on how to organize the information to get the maximum out of the presentation. It's about persuasiveness. And now we were going to talk about persuasion and persuasiveness. There are different methods. You can see it on the right, in the bottom of the right bottom of the slide, sorry, that there are different methods to organize the presentation material. I will show you in details. There is, for example, the selecting the main points kind of idea and focusing only on 2-3 main messages. There is another technique which pays attention to the beginning and the ending of the presentation to have the maximum impact. The first impression is really important, and the last impression, like how you end the presentation, is important as well. So this is another technique that really focuses on the beginning and the ending. There's the blue sky thinking and so on. I would like to show you these. The blue sky thinking says that you should focus on the ideas. So you have to only, keep your objectives in mind and only write down the most important points you have to make during the presentation. And the order is not important. So it says that the structure is not built around the order of the thoughts or the messages, but it is built around the message itself. So that is a different approach. When you use the PowerPoint slides, it generally have a really strict logic, a linear logic, and it goes from one point to the second and so on, and it will create a structure to the presentation. The blue sky thinking is different. There is another technique that you can select only the 3 important sections: introduction, the main content, and the conclusion, and divide the info according to these. That's really easy. We learn it in high school. This is the general idea of how to present. I would say it can be sometimes boring, so you can add some extras to each and every part. I was talking about the fourth one, like paying attention to the starting, the beginning, and the ending. And also there is one thing that says that illustrate as much as you can. As Nadia said at the beginning, that the illustrations, the examples are really important. And in this part, I would say we're not only talk about visual illustrations when we say illustrations. An example is an illustration. That is why I'm giving examples to you during when we discuss this topic, because it illustrates, it helps understand the message more clearly. And also there is one other technique that focuses on the conclusion and wants to leave with a very, very strong final thought. That's such a rhetorical approach to presentation, and it's generally advised to use this technique when you want to move people, when you want them to take some action immediately after the presentation, when you want to make them decide whether they buy into your idea or not, and you want an immediate action right now. In this case, it can be a good idea to really, really put the emphasis on the conclusion of the presentation. So there are different techniques. You can always decide which one is important for you, but some kind of structure you need to have. So you need to organize your content in a logical way, but there are different logics that can help you get the maximum impact or convey your message. And here is a game for you. It's just a 1-minute little game. I was wondering, what do you think about here the 3 types or parts of a presentation given here on the slide? Which one is the most important, which one is second, and which one is the last important? So here you can see there is the textual part, or the content that we say, what we talk about. There is the visual part, like how we illustrate what we talk about. And there is the vocal part, the way we talk about our subject. And I would like to ask you to make a guess. If we have 100% as a total, how much would you give for the textual part? How much would you give to the visual part? And how much would you give to the vocal part? What do you think? I will show you later, but now I leave it up to you to guess. No guesses? Which one is the most important? Oh, I can see that there is an answer in the chat. Oh, Nadia says that they are equally important, like 33% to each and every one of these. The situation is not that ideal. They've made, of course, researches on that, and we have a concrete number or percentage next to each and every one of these. But I like your answer because you said that each and every part is important, and we need to pay attention to each and every part. In real life, I will show you. Sad thing is that the textual part is only 7% according to how the audience perceives the message. So it's not the speaker's point of view right now that we're having, but the audience's point of view, the listener's point of view. So it's just 7%. The visual is more than the half of the whole presentation, 55%, and the vocal is 38%. And I think it reveals an important fact that many speakers or presenters do not pay attention to the way they speak. And they do not play with their voice. They do not focus on the rhythm or the clarity of their voice. You know, they do not focus on if they are heard enough in the last row, if they're presenting on a conference, on an event or not. They're not focused on the poses. It is important to leave poses. For example, to ask questions from the audience, to invite them to join in to the conversation, and also not to talk too fast, to give them time to digest the information, because it's really hard to get many ideas and info and theories after each other. So we need to know how to use the pauses, when to give a little pause, really a break for the audience, when to invite them to share their thoughts, when to give them an exercise, if we can. With customers, maybe we can, do these games sometimes if we have an event that is open for that, and when to give them space to ask questions. So these are the things that we can use to create pauses. And we will talk about in a minute why pauses are important. Generally, from this slide, I would like to highlight the part which says what, why, and how, because people tend to focus on these 3 questions when they're listening to a presentation. So your partner, your customer will think of that, what is this business, what is she's talking about, how is she doing things, how can I buy in, how can I join in, and why should I do that? Why should I buy your product or service? And out of these 3, the why is the most important, but also the what and the how we have to answer in a presentation. Another good technique from rhetoric, it is that do not use more than 3 of examples or points or ideas at the same time, because people cannot bear too much info. So when you give examples, when you use the list, when you use a list, when you present data, when you go through on your points, it's generally advised to have a maximum of 3 of these, because 4 is too much to remember and 2 is not enough to support your idea, but 3 is perfect. And also we need to re-edit the content. And just to shock you with an info, most of the experts say that if we want to do an outstanding presentation, a 1-hour presentation, it takes 30 hours of preparation time. And I think we do not have to agree or disagree with this idea, because the only thing here, what is important, is to know that the presentation consists of 2 parts: preparation and the presentation delivery itself. And if we imagine the whole presentation process as an iceberg, we can say that 90% is preparation, behind the scenes, what people will never see, and only 10%, the tip of the iceberg, the top of it, will be the presentation delivery itself that we present to the business partners or to the customers. Which means that we need to be more focused on the preparation. Because if we want to win a deal, if we want to get money or to get more partners or to get more customers, we need to convince them, which means that we need to look really, really prepared and professional, which means that we have to put the effort and time into the preparation process to have this impression when we're presenting. Some methods that people are generally using when presenting, some of them are advised, some of them are not advised at all. So just a few minutes we will spend with checking these methods, presentation methods. Here we will see first the full text, then the cue cards and the keywords on cue cards, and the mind map as an alternative way of preparing and presenting. This is something nobody likes. So I would never, ever encourage anyone to put full texts and full sentences on slides. No, people will never read it. If you check this video, if you see this video, or if you're here paying attention right now when I share you, I think I could guess that you stopped reading after the 5th word, or maybe you didn't even started to read it because it was like, wow, too much of the info. So no full sentences, no full text, no wall-to-wall texts on the slides or on the papers. If you have a leaflet, or if you have some kind of prepared written material, it's no matter if it's on paper or it's online, so digitally prepared, do not use this technique, because you will lose your audience in the very first minute. It can be a good idea to, sorry, I will move this, to use the cue cards if you feel that you're shy, or if you think that you're not comfortable with presenting, or if you feel that this is the first time you're talking to, I don't know, 50, 60 of your prospect customers, then I would say it's no problem. You can, and you cannot use the slides, or you do not want to use the slide, then you can have cards in your hand, and you can, put all the important points or simply the keywords on the cards. That's a good technique, surprisingly a good technique to talk to people when we're not using PowerPoint, because the thing is, that's for advanced level. We think that the PowerPoint or the Prezi is good enough. We just simply put the info there, we go to present, we check the slide, and then we talk about the slide. But the thing is that if we have a PowerPoint slide, it's really, really dangerous, because many of the speakers forgot that there is an audience, that there are 2, 3, 5, 16, 60 people sitting there, and they focus on the slides. And I have many, many bad impressions with business presentations when people were generally making connection with the slideshow, They were focusing on the slideshow and not on the audience. They thought they're talking to the audience, but in reality, they have established connection with their own PPT slides, and they put really, really low focus on the audience. So that's the trap of having the PPT slides. It can make you focused on the slides. And also, if you have a natural flow of ideas, it can be really disturbing that there is the next slide and it says that, but you want to talk about something else, but you have to follow your written line of thought on the presentation, and you will lose this natural way of talking because you're so fixed on the presentation and the presentation slides. So that is why it's not always a good idea to have PPTs. But instead of the PPT, you can have the cue cards and the keywords on cue cards, or you can have a mind map or an infographic. These are both good ideas, alternative ways of organizing information. So this, the mind map, the infographics do not use a linear logic like the PowerPoint slides, but they use a holistic view of everything that you can think of. So there's generally, you know, one idea in the middle, and they are all connected ideas given here on the paper, and you can also make interrelations between these. So you can use the lines to connect the thoughts with each other. You can add extra drawings, like here on the picture. You can add extra words and so on. So if you do not like the PPT, for example, because of this linear logic, then it's a good thing for you to have an infographic or a mind map with you, and then you can always decide which point to start with and how to continue and so on. So if you're a master presenter or a more advanced presenter, it can be a good idea to try this technique and, you know, to move on to the next level of presenting. And how to manage the presentation. We arrived to the second part of today's topic, and I know I've been talking a lot. And if we would be in a meeting room together at this point, I would give you, you know, many exercises to test, to try out what we're talking about. But that's the limitation of online conferences and video conferences and online meetings, that we cannot test these things in real life. So you can only imagine the situation. And also it's hard because I'm talking a lot, which I would never do in a meeting room or in a classroom. But in this case, when we have like a few people here, maybe not everyone is active right now because they're doing something else. So they're just listening the presentation at the background. I cannot do anything else. But I think this presentation can be set here as an example of why is it important to pay attention to the verbals, the non-verbals, the poses, your way of presenting, the slideshow, and of course implementing exercises, questions, and extras into the presentation. That is why it's important, because otherwise it will be the presenter who talks a lot, and it can be boring. Even though it's important for us, it can become boring. So in this case, we will talk about how to manage presentation when we're there. First of all, I don't know if you have done business presentations before or not, but it is important to pay attention to seating, like who sits where. I would like to ask you, do you have some experiences with this? Can you give the others some tips or advices what to do, what not to do? If you had some failures before when you sit at the wrong place, or they were invited and they put you in the wrong place, or it was a meeting and you had some difficulties with the seating, or if you had good example with the seating. So I'm interested, do you have experiences? Why is it important to pay attention to the seating and to the physical setting of the meeting environment? maybe it says that it wasn't a problem before, or maybe it says that you had not so bad experiences, which is good. Generally, for example, when we go on a job interview, that's so embarrassing when we, sit there on a seat and there are 5 people sitting in front of us, like next to each other, and they make a board, of a committee in the interview, and we're sitting in front of them alone on a tiny chair, and we really feel that we're smaller a bit because they have the power and there's 5 people and we're sitting, just the one of us alone there. So that's a really, really bad idea. And I think when companies use it, they are not aware how embarrassing it is, or they use it purposefully because it's a stress interview and they want to put pressure on the interviewee. The same thing applies for meetings, for business meetings and presentations. So I would give you an advice to make sure to sit around the table, and you can mix people. Like if there's the 3 of you presenting your business, and there's the 3 or 4 of them from the other side, from the stakeholder side. You don't have to, sit in the left and the right side of the table, but you can mix. You can move the chairs. That's always good. Or it is important to pay attention. Like, do you sit next to the door or next to the presenter? If it is important for you to go out to come back, then sit next to the door, of course. But in any other cases, I would say no. Sit as close as you can to the screen because you will present. You will need to be there, and you need to see everybody. And that's a really important thing, to sit in a place where you can see everybody around the table, and make sure that everybody is seen. And if you recognize that there is somebody who you cannot make eye contact with, ask him or her to move closer, or let the other people rearrange the room to make sure that we can see each other's eyes. So that is why the seating is important. Also, creating rapport with the audience is connected to this, because you can only create rapport if you can, check the eyes of the people you're talking to, nonverbal communication. So if we want to create a good atmosphere, we can always use our facial expressions, but these only work if we see the faces of the people. For example, that's why it was so hard at the beginning in 2020 when COVID hit in to do university classes, because many of my students didn't want to turn on the camera. Later, we asked them to turn on, and it was mandatory for them to turn on. But at the beginning, nobody had an idea how it's going to work. So we did not ask them, and they did not turn on the camera. So I was talking to them, they were answering, but I could not see them. No, their eyes, their faces. Sometimes I couldn't even hear their voices because they were simply sending info in the chat. That was a total horror, because communication does not work that way. Communication needs at least 2 people with full body, full voice, full attention to be present at the same time. This is what we call communication. Otherwise, we're just talking to a dark screen. That's not communication, that's a monologue. And of course, it's boring. So that is why creating rapport begins with the seating and with all the physical impediments of the presentation situation, because we have to have eye contact. Okay, and now move on to the structure of the presentation. And I think it's going to be the third part and the last part of today's topic, presentation techniques, advanced presentation techniques, like how to present, what not to forget, what to pay attention to. First of all, what do you put on the title slide? That would be my first question. What do you think? Is it important how the first slide, the cover of your slideshow look like? And what do you think what we should put on the title slide?
I guess it should be some main idea about what the presentation, the topic,
Mhm.
the main,
Why do you
or
think?
the the name of the brand, or your short name of your business.
Well, that's evident to the name of
Mhm.
the business. But your first idea, a short message, it was interesting.
Yes, short message about the whole speech. What I will talk about.
hmm And why do you use this technique, Nadia?
I do not use. I just thinking about it.
Oh,
What would I like if I would be a audience? What
hmm
I would expect to see on the first screen. So I'd like to see what it will be about.
hmm And why is it important for you as a member of the audience?
Uh, to get ready to prepare for the next information, because we will not able to receive all the information in a second. We are not robots. We need
Yeah.
some time to get into the topic. So first slide, it's a kind of preparation for this, for the next.
hmm and what do you think? Is it a good idea to put a question on the first slide, to start with a question?
Maybe, I don't know.
It's just a spontaneous thing
Yeah.
that popped into my mind. That what about putting a question on the title slide?
If my topic will then answer this question, yes,
Yeah,
why
of
not?
course. Yeah, the number one rule with questions is that we have to answer them during the
Yes.
presentation. Well, yeah, that's presentation basics. That if you pop up a question, you have to answer it.
Yeah. Yes.
That's true. I've seen once a business presentation starting with a question, and it was interesting because people, paid attention from the very first minute. They thought that, oh, something's about to happen here, and it was interesting for them to see. And it was a question that was, just slightly related to the topic. It wasn't a business-like question. It was totally different. And people felt that, oh, it's so creative, it's interesting, what's going to happen? We thought that we're coming to a business presentation, and now it turns out it's going to be more than that. So I think it's not really the matter of questions or sentences, but I would say that Nadia is right. Put something interesting that can caught the attention of people on the title slide. The main message, or a question, or the main idea you want to talk about with the audience, a challenge, for example, the main challenge that helped you establish your business because it was important to solve this problem, anything. Or you can put on a general question to start a conversation with the audience. It can be anything. So I would say that paying attention to the slide, to the title slide, is important, and also it is important to pay attention to the introduction. And many, even business people, when there's an important presentation because they want to get money for the business, sometimes I see that they're so focused on learning, the lines and what am I going to say, and after that I'm going to say this, and then comes that, and so on. But I realized during the years I was teaching presentation techniques and listening many of these presentations that it's not always a good idea to really stick to a written format of your presentation. I would say let's write down the first 5 or 15 sentences, like the first 1 minute or 2 minutes, because this is the part when we are nervous. We don't know what's going to happen, how's it going to work. So it can help us calm down to have a written introduction. But the later parts, I would not recommend to write down or to put everything on the slides. I think we should pay attention to the introduction because it is very, very important. First impression. It is very important, but paying attention to introduction does not mean that we write it down and that's all. It's done. We have learned the lines. I would say paying attention to the introduction means that I arrive not just physically, but mentally to that very situation. And I also help other people, members of the audience, arrive to the presentation as well. So I make eye contact with them. Maybe I can give a smile. I talk to them a bit. I will not start if they're chatting. I won't say a word until there is complete silence in the room and everybody's focused on the presentation. Before that, I won't say a word. So starting the presentation means that you have to establish credibility. You have to make a connection, create connection with the audience. And that's not going to happen in the middle or at the end of the presentation. This is rhetoric. You can only establish credibility and connection with the audience at the beginning of your presentation. Because if you forgot to do it at the beginning, you cannot do it later. Because later you will talk about your business. Later you will present your idea. You cannot focus on creating connection. And also, people will only believe you if they know you. So at the beginning, personally, you need to create the network of people who are there, and then you can jump in to business topics. And these two are not reversible. So always the connection, the introduction comes first, and then the main content, the main body of the presentation, the topic itself. And also in the conclusion, we will focus on the rhetorical parts, the personal parts again. So the introduction is the part when you can really tell them who you are. You can tell your story. Why did I started this business? What was the problem I have faced or I spotted? What kind of solution I have given to that? Why is it important for me to tell it to other people? Why is it important for you, people in this room, to join me? Not just to give money, but to join my company. Why is it important for you as customers to buy the product? How will it help you later in your life? So this is what the introduction is designed for. And then you can go on, of course, with the core message and the data and everything in the middle. But first of all, creating connection, establishing credibility. And here's one pro technique for those who are already good presenters but want to move on. How to create connection with people. This is a trick from America that we can use in presenting. It is called how to spot your SAM. And SAM is an abbreviation for the spectacular audience member. This is what we call a SAM. So how to spot the person who is the spectacular audience member, which means who will pay attention, who will be with you, who will support you, who will nod, who will give you a smile, who will pay attention throughout the presentation. Well, generally, the spectacular audience members are not born, they are created. So as a presenter, we are the ones who will mark the people in the room and tell them without a word, simply with eye contact, that they're going to be our spectacular audience members. So when you arrive to the room, and there are more than 5 people there, so it only works with more than 5 people, 10 or 12, 15, 20, 30, and so on. So when you arrive to the meeting room or to the conference hall, scroll the people in the room, check those who have moved their eye and get 1 second of eye contact with you, or the ones who are interested, who are waiting for the presentation, and just give them a nod, a smile, just create eye contact with them, and this will give them the impression that they've been marked, that they are going to be the ones that you will pay attention to. This is the first thing. And then throughout your presentation, when you're talking about your business, make sure that you will revisit the eyes of the people that you have marked at the beginning of the presentation. So whenever you're talking, you will go back and check and give eye contact to those people who you found in the audience at the beginning. And I would say you don't need more than 4 or 5, maximum of 6 spectacular audience members. So if you talk to, for example, 20 customers because you're presenting your product, then I would say out of these 20 customers, you need to choose 4 or 5, the most attentive ones at the very beginning, and later when you're presenting, you just simply go back and check their eyes and their faces, so they will feel that they are, important. The others will feel that they want to pay attention to, they want to feel the same thing, and also you will have support from the spectacular audience members because they were nodding, they were supporting you, they were going with you, and so on. So this is why it is a good technique to help yourself and also to help the audience. When we are doing this was the beginning, the introduction. When we move to the main body, the main content, the main info, or the important thing here is to create cycles, let's say, in the large cycle of presentation, because people cannot pay attention for a long period of time. We discussed it before, Nadia said before. So when we feel that they got tired, we can add a question, or we can stop for a minute, or we can give an example, or we can use a video, 1 minute, 2 minute video to highlight what we're talking about, a video of our business, an overview or something like that. So when you feel that you've been given like 20, 30, 40 minutes to present, it's a good idea to create mini cycles within the big cycle. So this way you can always refresh the attention of the audience. Also, there are some other techniques that can help your audience pay attention. And as a business leader, for you, it is essential that the audience pays attention to what you're saying, because this is your selling point. This is the part when you can really go through with your idea. Repetition is a well-known technique. Advertisements use it, teachers use it. Do not repeat too many times the same message, because that's going to have a controversial effect. So maximum 3 times, but depend on repetition. And if you know what is your main idea, one single clear message that is the core idea of your business, you can repeat the message 2, 3 times during the presentation. You can help people depend on their associations. So using stories, for example, or analogies is a real good idea. This is why storytelling became such an important topic today in presentation techniques, because people think in stories. In the ancient times, when there were no computers, they didn't even know how to write. They were telling stories by heart, and they were listening these stories and remembered the stories just by hearing the stories. And this is something that did not change with time. So our brain, the human brain, works the same today as well. We like to think in stories because it's easier. It's hard to remember data, but it's easy to remember the data if it's implemented into a story. So that is why using storytelling and the techniques of storytelling is helpful for the audience. Today, we have no time to go into details, but I have put together a 10 slides help for you, and I will upload it about storytelling and how to tell a story, what's the technique of storytelling. Playing with the voice, I have mentioned many times today. So playing with the intensity of your voice is a real good idea. Playing with the rhythm, with the poses, always works. And also try to involve people with questions, with videos, with exercises, with small poses. This is something I have already mentioned too. Using examples, another good technique. If you have statistics, put it in the middle of your presentation. So do not start with the statistics and do not end with the statistics. That's not going to work. But in the middle, it's a good idea to show your data, because it can add, more extra to what you're saying. But please pay attention not to tell every single data to the people who are listening to you, because they cannot bear this bunch of information, this much information. So if you have, for example, a table with data or a graph or anything, a billboard, I would say choose the most important data, or 2, 3 numbers that are important, and only talk about those. You can share the whole table, and if the people who are interested can check all these little brackets. But when you're presenting, talk about only the most important thing. Like, can you see this number here? I will tell you why is it important. This is, I don't know, customer revenue, and then you can go on. So do not tell everything, but you can give them. And also using comparisons, like comparing two things rhetorically gives an impression of a more interesting presentation, or if you have testimonies from customers who have already bought your product, or experts, professionals who advise to use your product. This is another good idea as well if you talk to customers. And we're almost at the end of our today's session, but we have arrived to the conclusion and the conclusive parts, which is always hard, gives a hard time to presenters, like how to end a presentation. And many people think that they just simply stop presenting. And I have heard like 1,000 times presentations from students and from business people as well that, okay, my time's up, this was it, I'm open to your questions, thank you. Oh, that's so boring. Everybody does the same thing. So the trick here, if you want to get the business, if you want to convince the customer, leave a good impression, something extra, unexpected, and interesting for the conclusion. So how to end a presentation? Never to use the thank you for your attention slide, please. That's I think the worst mistakes you can make, because it contains no information. Everybody use it. Really not unique, so boring, and really gives an impression that you don't know how to end the presentation. So you put there, thank you for your attention, hello. No, do not use that. Instead of the thank you for attention slide, you can use, for example, here I have put all the ideas. You can use a quote from somebody. You can put a question there that you start the conversation, the Q&A with. You can end your story if you've been using storytelling. You can end your story, or you can use an image, a visual image, to say goodbye or to start the conversation. Or the fifth one is you can use a call into action technique, like you ask them to do something immediately. It can be such an easy thing as filling in a survey or sharing their thoughts in an online platform. It can be as easy to come here and touch the product itself or chat with me. Or it can be something like, here you can see my partners and we have bought our products here, so you can test it right now. So this is the call into action kind of technique when you ask them to do something. And there are many other things I have discussed here with you that you can do, but do not tell them that thank you for your attention and that's all, because in this case, you just simply forgot to use the power of the last thought and the ending of the presentation. So play with it. Use it in a thoughtful way, in a persuasive way. Make a memorable last word. So the thing is that when people listen to presentations, and you know, the researchers ask them that, what do you remember of the presentation 1 hour later? They could tell like 3-4 info. When they ask them 1 day later, some of them could tell 1 info. And when they asked them a week later, some of them, they didn't even remember the topic of the presentation. And that's a problem for you who are running a business, who's running a business. So leaving a strong, memorable last impression is vital, is essential, especially for startuppers who need customers and businessmen to buy in to their company. And one more thing for the last word, how to deal with questions. This is something that everybody's afraid of. Like, okay, I'm done with the presentation. It was super cool, fantastic. But now the Q&A session starts and I ask people, now you can share your questions. Now you can give me questions. And people feel that, oh my God, it's going to be the worst part because I don't know what's going to happen. I cannot prepare what questions they have. And here's a funny pic I found a year ago, which says that when you're presenting, your heart rate is okay. It goes up a bit when you have to really stand out and present, but in the Q&A, it goes up high like this. And yeah, it's Of course, it's just a funny pic, but it gives us the impression that we're so afraid to answer questions because we cannot prepare for them. So a few advices for you, lastly, in the last few minutes, how to deal with questions. Okay, first of all, when you're presenting at the beginning, before you start the presentation, tell the audience when you expect the questions. There are two options. You can tell them that you will present and you expect the questions after the presentation, and there will be a Q&A session. Or you can tell them that you're open to answer the questions during the presentation. So anytime when they feel that they have a question, they just raise their hand or tell you that there is a question, and you will answer it. The first one, having a Q&A session after the presentation, is better for beginners. And the last one, like having spontaneous questions during the presentation, is good for those who are more skilled or have an expertise in presenting. But you can try both of these. Also, some techniques. There can be questions that you don't know the answer for. There can be hostile questions when somebody just simply don't like the idea and wants to be hard on you. There are questions that are interested when they need more info. So there are different types of questions: positive, neutral, negative. It varies. The rule is that you have to answer all of these in the same manner. So even if somebody's being rude to you or hostile to you, you have to be kind to answer the question in a polite way, no matter what you think of the person or of the question. So the rule is never to lose your temper. Of course, it's evident in business presentations, but I think some of you who have been already working with customers will understand me when I say that sometimes it's really hard not to lose our temper when we're talking to customers. They can really push you to the limits, let's say, and sometimes business partners can push you to the limits. So make sure that you're cool and calm, and answer the questions in a friendly and open way. Try to be assertive. Tomorrow we will talk about assertiveness. Also, if you feel that you don't know the answer, there are some tricks that can help you. For example, you can repeat the question of the questionnaire, and you can interpret it like, do you mean by that? Or I'm not sure what do you mean, but I was thinking of, and then go on. And if he feels that, no, this wasn't my question, he will tell. So you can, interpret the question. Also, you can show possible ideas. If you feel that you don't know the exact answer, but there are 2-3 options that I can think of, then you can tell what ideas do you have, and the questionnaire can, choose the one he or she prefers. Also, another technique, you can always invite the audience to join in. If there are more people in the room, you can tell them that, this is my idea, what do you think? Do you have some other options or related questions? What would be your solution? This is something that works when you're in a friendly environment. Of course, when it's a really business formal environment, I wouldn't choose that technique. But in other cases with customers, sometimes it's working. Also, if you feel that you were not giving a full answer to the question, especially with business partners, it is essential to tell them that they can be in touch with you and you will later bring more info to them. So you can give a brief answer to the question with general info, and you can tell them that I will send you the detailed info. I will send you more info in email tomorrow, or I will send the data to you, so the raw data and so on. So it is important to tell them that they can reach out to you anytime later on, and you will send more info to them. And it is important, of course, if you tell them that you will send the info, you have to tell them when you're going to sell that info, and of course, make sure that you send the info. So the worst thing that you can do is to promise that I will send you the info tomorrow, and then 1 week passes and there is no answer from you. That's total horror. Nobody wants to do a business with a person like that, because we need trustworthy people who we can really build upon. So when you say, I will answer it, tell them when. Generally, we say tomorrow. And then whatever happens, you have to send the info tomorrow. So there is no reason, no excuse for not sending if you have said that you're going to send it. Important. Just a funny pick. How do we feel when we're answering questions? I hope we feel like this, like, yay, success. I've done it, but please don't be afraid, because it's always hard to, to sit down and to spontaneously, immediately give correct professional answers to questions. But that's the most important part of a presentation, because this is the part when the audience, the business people, the customers can share what is important for them. Because when you're presenting, you're talking about the things that are important to you, that you think are important. But in the question section, they will tell what is important for them. So maybe you present, a bunch of data, you want to look really professional, and the customer will ask a question that, do you have it in another color? And you will feel that, okay, I was totally misunderstood. I thought that it is more important how durable, how safe my product is. But the customer is only interested whether there's a pink version of it or not. So in this case, you have to realize that, okay, next time when you're presenting, you have to start with that, yes, there is a pink version if you want. So the question and answer section gives you an image of what is important to people. So next time you can suit your presentation when you're presenting to a same audience or an audience like the first one. You can tailor your presentation according to those thoughts. So these were the presentation technique slides I wanted to share with you today. Here's a little summary, a bit more on body language. If you're interested how to use your body, this is really just, a brief introduction to the topic and a few slides on storytelling, how to tell a story. I will upload these on Moodle as well, so it will be available for you later on. And I will stop sharing. And I want to